in this fury. God is holding me now. Untie the knot in what I am caught in. God is holding me now. Relax my hands and rest my eyes. Take a deep breath and realize I can do this. I'll get through this. God is holding me now. In this moment, I'll step aside. I will let go and let God provide. Find my center, let love enter. God is holding me now. Find my center, let love enter. God is holding me now.
So I want to begin with a question. Has anybody here ever been shocked before? I think we could earnestly say yes. We've all been shocked. And I want to talk about shock today, but I want to do it a little bit different. And the title of my sermon is Shock of a Lifetime. And that'll make sense a little bit later. But if you've heard me speak before, I'm obsessed with a lot of things, but definitions and quotes in particular, because I don't like to throw out a word and not have it anchored in something that's not just coming from me. So I'll go to the dictionary, and what I found interesting is shock has a lot of bad connotations to it, but surprise doesn't. And surprise is listed as a synonym. And in fact, in the definition of surprise that you'll hear, shock is used. So why does shock have such a bad rap? So there are actually, there are probably more than this. Well, there are because I'll talk about it. But in the dictionary, it talks about shock having five different types of shock. There is medical. We heard about this morning. A life-threatening condition when the body doesn't get enough blood flow, leading to an organ failure. It can result in severe injury, infection, or allergic reaction. That's shocking, obviously. There's emotional or psychological. I have a lot of experience with that. And that's a state of sudden distress or disbelief caused by unexpected events such as bad news or trauma. That would be shocking. There is electrical. Like if I put my finger in a socket And I think many of us have done that maybe as a child, like, whoa, oh my gosh, yes, the electricity's on. That's shocking. Then we have mechanical, which is a sudden force or impact like a collision. And then interesting, last one is cultural. There can be, and we hear the term, it's a culture shock, but all of that has negativity around it. There's no positive aspect of shock, and I want to change that today. And I want to juxtapose it to surprise. And if you look at the dictionary, surprise is a noun or a verb, a sudden or unexpected event. Example, the gift was a wonderful surprise. Interesting how the dictionary used that as something very positive. And the verb is to cause something or someone to feel shocked by something unexpected. So in my sermon today, I want to tell a bunch of stories because that's what I love to do. And I want to change this relationship that we have with shock, because what I believe now is that the universe that is part of us, Michael being so wonderful in his articulation through song, we are the embodiment of the universe. And I want us, after the end of today's service, to go out and shock the world. And I want us to do it with every person that we meet. People that we know, people that we don't know. That's going to be the homework assignment is to go out and shock people. Now, the first story I want to tell you is very personal, and I think that you'll remember that at 62 years old, I have danced with, let's use it in the most positive terms, this thing called depression. And 14 years ago, on August 31st, 2011, I tried to kill myself. But what happened was a police officer shocked me as I stood on a 730-foot tall bridge, the Forest Hill Bridge in Auburn, about to jump off. He shocked me by use of curiosity. And he shocked me because he asked a question I had no expectation for. His first question was, David, would you please share with me how you are feeling right now? And I remember I was literally bent over, looking down 730 feet at the North Fork of the American River. I only needed a heavy thought to end my life, but I actually stood up and took a couple steps back towards him because I was so surprised. I turned around and asked him, I said, do you really want to know how I feel? He said, yeah, brother, please, don't tell me. Please share with me how you feel. And then the second question is the question that I think is the greatest relationship question that we can use forever. After he listened to me, and he was a great listener. He was a great listener, like Dr. Remen in her amazing book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, says, our listening creates a sanctuary for the homeless parts in another person. Like he just stood there fully attentive. He wasn't looking at his watch. He wasn't checking. No, he was fully attentive. The second question, after he said, thank you for sharing, he said, what can I do to help you feel supported right now? You ask that in your relationships, it'll transform your relationships. Because you notice the difference was, what he didn't ask was, hey, what can I do to help you? Because we're quick to say, oh, no, I'm good. It's okay. I don't need anything. But when you say to somebody, what can I do to help you feel supported right now? No one's going to ask you for a house. No one's going to ask you for $1 million. You know what they're going to do? They're going to say, hey, can I get a hug? Hey, could you give me some sort of shock? That's what they're going to ask you. Now, I was cruising along from August 31st, 2011, and things had changed in a shockingly wonderful way. And I was invited to start to tell my story, as I like to say, this journey from mental illness to mental wellness. And in 2023, I was literally all over the world, primarily working with the military. And then in the fall of 23, I descended back into a place of hell. Made no sense because I was taking my medication, I was going to counseling, I was doing all the things. I've been a Unity Truth student for years. I worked on staff at Unity of Sacramento. I knew what to do. So I was shocked, but it just got worse. And so I was in a place of what they call treatment-resistant depression. And so my family and I am blessed to be surrounded by extraordinary souls. My former wife and I are great friends, my beloved now. I'm now a new parent because I didn't have children before. You'll remember my former wife and I ran a large animal sanctuary. And so now I have these 3 beautiful souls. But I'm in this place of incapacitating depression. Just all I wanted to do. Every day, when my wife Summer went to work, I had to pinky promise her. You remember when we did a pinky promise? And my pinky promise was, she'd say, come here. And in that place of where I was, I mean, just a single step was almost impossible. She said, come here. She says, tell me, as my pinky was attached to hers, promise me. I will. Promise me what? I'll be alive when you come home. Like every day I had to do that. So they didn't know what to do, so they got me into a shocking treatment. We all know what it is. Electroconvulsive therapy, shock therapy. Now, most of us know it because we watched the movie One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, and that's a terrible example of what this treatment does. Now, I have had 40 treatments. I have 40 grand mal seizures in the last 14 months. The last one was just a week ago Friday. It has saved not only has it saved my life, it has changed my life. It has renewed me, restored me, revitalized me. It has whipped depression's, forgive me, ass. It has taken away a daily, moment-by-moment thought of suicide and has put back into even greater than at 62 to look at the possibility and the wonder of life. And just so you know, because there is such confusion, let me tell you how it works. And realize it's the gold standard in psychiatry. But most people don't want to do it because they're afraid of it, which I get it. But remember, we're taught in Unity that fear is false evidence appearing real. Because they're like, wait. You're gonna electrocute me? And that's gonna help? Well, if you want to put it that way, yes, that's exactly. But here's how it happens. So I'll go in and see Dr. Marassa. And I go see Dr. Marassa, and she invites me to lay down on the procedure table. And so she then puts electrodes around my head. Dr. Simon, my anesthesiologist, who could be a stand-up comedian, is putting the IV because he's also going to give me ketamine, because I'm on an interesting protocol. They wanted to try this, and it's worked beautifully, in addition to the anesthesia. So Dr. Simon always gets the last word. He says, David. I say, yes, Dr. Simon. He says, are you ready for your nap? I say, yes, I am. And he puts me to sleep. I am totally out. In 40 sessions, I've never woken up. I've never felt anything. I don't remember anything. Then what he does is after he puts me to sleep, he paralyzes me. And he paralyzes me because, of course, I'm going to have a grand mal seizure. He doesn't want me to break any bones. And so then the seizure happens. It lasts about 30 seconds to about a minute. Then when the seizure's over, they reverse the paralysis. And then when I'm breathing on my own, because he's breathing for me when I'm paralyzed, then I go into, there's 2 types of recovery, or two rooms of recovery. The first is when I first wake up, and the nursing staff has been phenomenal. These have become incredibly important people in my life, in addition to the doctors. As much as the technology and the science has shocked me in the most powerful way, like how we look at surprise, this is what shock has been to me, it's the nursing staff. It's Sam. It's Jeremy, it's Ron, it's Kelsey. My favorite is Jen, and then there's Betty. That these souls in this journey over these last 14 months, where I went from a retreat back into hellness, which I never thought I would, into a place of wellness I never thought I would. It's shocking to me. So once I wake up, then I walk next door, and this is my favorite part because they have like lazy boy chairs lined up against the wall, and so you sit in a recliner, and then you're kind of chilly, and they say, David, are you chilly? And I say, I am. Say, would you like a blanket? Well, the blankets are in a heated box. So they take the blanket out and they give it to you, and it's been amazing. And there were 2 particular events that were shocking to me. I had been going for probably about 4 months and really started to experience some tremendous improvement. And one day I was in the first part of recovery, and Jen, one of the nurses, she was talking to me, and she says, may I say something to you? And I said, absolutely. She said, we love all our patients. She said, but of everyone, we were pulling for you the most. I'm like, we can shock people with our words. And then the last time I was there, I was in one of the recliners. I had the blanket on, feeling great. And Betty, who's a hugger like me, she came close, and I thought she was going to give me a hug, and she actually leaned in and she whispered, she said, David, there's a new patient named Ron, and he's going to be here in just a moment. Would you please tell him everything's going to be okay? I was shocked. I was entrusted. I was the representative of this whole procedure of the people. They trusted me to give that gift of assurance to this soul. That's what this has done for me. Now I'm on a mission now to invite people who are in that place where nothing's worked. Try this. Be shocked into a place of wellness and possibility that is, it's hard to conceptualize sometimes. Now, the other thing that we can do, we don't have to have ECT to be shocked. We can be shocked in very, very simple ways. And a lot of what I talk about in my work is the power of connection. Connection creates this thing called hope, which I think is the most important emotion of all. I think it trumps love, quite frankly. Because if you look at people like me who have been in a place of wanting to take their life, if you ask them, okay, describe how you feel with just one word, we will all say the same thing: hopeless. So then if math is correct and you look at the converse must be true. Well, if I give you the experience of hope, hold on, pain ends. If I give you the experience of hope, would you reconsider? Well, yeah, but I could never feel hopeful again. Well, let me try. Because in the space of connection, which is the experience when you feel seen, heard, and valued, like you do every time you come to this place, the only thing you're ever going to feel is hope. Hope is the thing. And so I think that if we go out and shock people with connection because maybe they don't know how to connect, and it works a lot like this. So I went to a Panda Express. I live outside of Sacramento in the beautiful town of Rockland, and I was hungry. It was about 7 o'clock on a Saturday, and I used to work in the restaurant industry, so I noticed it's a lot of work. Please be nice to your servers. Please call them by name. So I walked in, and the first thing I said is, it was a relatively small store. I'm like, okay, may I please just say, I have never seen a Panda Express this clean. Not that the others are dirty, but it's like spotless. How do you do this? Like, you're in the middle of rush. How do you do this? It looks amazing. And so then it was time to order, and a young woman came up. Her name was Izzy. She had a name tag on. When people have a name tag on, please call them by their name. Izzy came up and she said, sir, what can I offer you? I said, Izzy, may I have this and may I have this? On my third may I have, she said, sir, may I say something to you? I said, Izzy, of course. She said, thank you for your manners. Do you see the role reversal? That's a child saying it to me. It would be different if it was, me saying, oh, that kid was raised right. No, that was a child being shocked by the fact that I said, please. And then I wanted to order one more thing, and I said, Izzy, you know what? I don't know what to get. And I said, do you have a favorite? She says, I do. I said, give me that, please. So we're checking out, and she says, sir, may I say one more thing? I said, Izzy, you can say whatever you like. She said, you're the nicest customer we've had in a very long time. Now, you can look at this situation two different ways. Some people will say, wow, man, the bar is really low. Please don't look at it that way. Please don't. Please look at it this way. Look at the opportunity that you have to shock somebody by simply saying please, by simply acknowledging their excellence, by simply treating them that they are a child of God. Do that and you will shock them. Use the power of shock to transform. Now, until 3 years ago, August 31st was the worst day of the year for me. It was the anniversary of the day that I was going to kill myself. And, a lot of times, maybe most of the time, what we see, how we act, is not the whole story. There's something else going on, especially when things are really bad. In the extreme, the great Parker Palmer says this: violence is what happens when we don't know what else to do with our suffering. So we act in crazy, stupid, awful ways. And so I woke up on that day and I was not like, he didn't want to be around me. And usually people do. There's a little phoenix in me, not as much as I want to, but. So I go to the mailbox and everything I'm doing is in an abrupt, angry, just like this. And I'm going through the mail and I see this one, it looks like it's going to be a card, but there's no return address. And I rip it open and it's this card. And it says, advice from a glacier. Like, you got to be kidding me, man. Don't go there today. Not today. I don't want to hear anybody's advice today. I didn't ask for anybody's advice today. But just in case you're wondering, this is the advice that a glacier will give you. Carve your own path. Go slow. Channel your strengths. Smooth the way for others. Keep moving forward. Whatever. Like, I am so pissed. How dare you? And I'm going to throw it away. You know, okay, that's sound advice. Not today. But Mother God forced my hand, thank God. She did. And opened it up. And on the inside it says, happy today. From my great friend Greg, who is like a brother, who has walked a very similar path, who I met in a men's depression support group years before. He paid attention. He shocked me because he paid attention. He knew that August 31st was going to be a hard day. And so he did something about it. Hey, just a note to remind you that you are an extraordinary person with so much to give so many others. You are a tremendous source of healing just by your personable presence. This is not only my sentiment, so many others also believe in you. Believe in yourself, reject the lies. I love you. You know what this card did? You know what the result of the shock was? Changed August 31st from the worst day of the year. You know what it is for me? That's New Year's Day. You know what the celebration is? I drive back to the bridge. I drive back to the place where I was going to kill myself. And I park my vehicle in the very same spot. But there is no note. And I got the keys in my hand, the car's locked because I'm coming back. And I make my way to the midpoint. 14 years ago, I didn't take in the extraordinary view that God had created. I looked down because that's where I was headed. Now, I don't look down. I look up and give thanks, all because somebody shocked me in responding to what they knew was going to be a tough situation. Do something about it. We can leverage this extraordinary power. So I'm blessed to work with the military a lot. They have a fight against this thing called suicide, against depression. And my beloved brother, I have 3, they're my heroes. They're the best men I know. David's right behind him. He's right there. And so my eldest, we lost our father, our father, James Hamilton Bartley. Everybody called him Ham. Amazing man, died of cancer when he was just 42. I was just 7. My eldest brother was 18, and from that moment to this day, he moved in as my father. He's my dad, without a doubt. He's my guy. He did 42 years in the uniform. He started at the very lowest. He enlisted. Made his way to West Point a couple years later. 42 years later, 2-star general. He's my guy. So when I served the military, I feel like I'm saying thank you to my brother. So I was working with a unit and a large battalion. So a battalion has about 500 or 600 soldiers, and over several days I did my talks. And at the end, their commander, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Trouse, said, "David, would you please come to my office?" I said, "Absolutely, sir." He said, "David, please have a seat." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "David, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've shared with my soldiers. Your approach and your look at this whole thing around suicide and these things, to say that it's unique." And he literally used the word, it was shocking. And he said, "But David, what you shared with us, what happened to you when you were 12, the fact that you were sexually assaulted in the most horrific and terrible ways by a Boy Scout leader, and then told that these were initiations and all the boys go through it, but you can't talk about it. David, I can't process that. I don't think that will ever leave my mind. And I remember being shocked that what had hurt me so terribly all those years ago upset him. And I felt like it was another brother standing up for me. And he said, David, and he got very emotional. So you wouldn't expect a battalion commander to be emotional. And this was an amazing man. And he said, David, I was a Boy Scout. He said, David, I was an Eagle Scout. And I knew enough about to know what an Eagle Scout was, the epitome, that there is nothing higher. He says, David, the best parts of who I am as a father, as a commander, as a human being, I learned as an Eagle Scout. And now to have knowledge of what happened to you. And then he took his hand and he reached behind him and he pulled out his wallet. And I thought, what is going on? And then he opened it up. Now he's standing up, I'm sitting down, and he pulls out, and he's faced away from me, he pulls out, looks like it's like a credit card. Now I am totally confused. Being shocked by the fact that he's upset by what hurt me. Now I'm shocked, I have no idea. And he says, David, when you become an Eagle Scout, they give you one of these. And he turned it around, and it's an Eagle Scout card. It says Eagle Scout card. He says, David, I became an Eagle Scout on November 3rd, 1998. You talk to any Eagle Scout, they have their card with them. It means that much to them. It's symbolic. And he gave me the card. He said, David, I'd like you to hold it. And it was a shocking event. This so symbolic in so many ways. It was almost like, to me, it was like he was trying to apologize for the entire organization, what had happened to me as a child. And I'm holding it in my hand, and I'm overwhelmed with emotion. The colonel's overwhelmed with emotion. And I go to give it back. And he says, no, you keep it. You've earned it. I cannot tell you how many times after a talk in some wonderful place around the world that an Eagle Scout will come up to me, and they always do the same thing. They're very quiet, and without any words, they just take out their wallet, and they take out their card, and they show it to me. And then they say, the fact that he gave it to you means everything. Somebody not long ago asked me, they said, you must hate the Boy Scouts. And before I could give it any thought, I said, I really don't. And I was shocked. This and therapy and other things, but this also, this is what we can do for each other to heal wounds that had been around for a very long time with a single act of compassion and grace. We talked about grace in the song. Like it's there. And one last story. So as mentioned, my former beloved, who's still just Deanna is such a wonderful, but we had this large animal sanctuary, and our sanctuary was called A Chance for Bliss. And we were end of life. We took the ones nobody wanted. We had as many as 100 at any one time, 25 horses, 23 dogs, all of whom lived in the house, 9 pot-bellied pigs, goats and sheep, 15 different species. And they made their transition. That was it. So we became very well known, and one day we get a call from an animal shelter, and this is what had happened, is an old man, about 80 plus years old, walks in with a beagle, swayed back like this, like an old horse, like this was an old dog. Walks up to the person and says, hey, I was on my daily walk, and I found this dog, and I promise I checked him from head to toe. He has no identification. And the worker was like, wow, sir, thank you so much for bringing him in. Like, you probably saved his life. Most people would have just walked on by, but you stopped. She was shocked. And she said, he's old. He's old. They didn't microchip back then. I'll take him in the back and check, but chances are he's not microchipped. But while I'm in the back checking, hoping, praying, would you please just give me your name, number, and where you found the dog, just on a piece of paper here, just in case I need to get in touch with you. And he says, oh, absolutely, of course. So he fills out the information. She's in the back, and as the story was told to me, you could hear the scream. You could hear the shock. Oh my God, he's microchipped. His name is Joshua. She couldn't believe it. So she comes out and she's holding, and Beagle's a pretty good size, she's holding this glorious, wonderful, sacred being. And she's crying and she's like, oh, you saved his life. And the man was very humble. He says, it's okay. You just want to do the right thing. You know, it's a dog. You know, D-O-G-G-O-D is what he said. Wow. So he's leaving, and the shelter worker grabs a piece of paper and just by chance happens to compare what's written on the piece of paper matches what's on the microchip. She is shocked. Now, had I been there, that shock would have quickly turned into, you want a can of whoop, what? Like, you're going down, brother. You got to be kidding me. But you know what? She used the power of shock. She transformed, like, okay, there's got to be more than this. And I hate why questions. I'm on a campaign to eliminate the word from the human vocabulary, because when you ask me why, I have to justify myself. I have to explain myself. I have to give you all the reasons. When you give a slight change and you invite me by way of what, to not justify but to share, everything's different. And she asked one question in the presence of being shocked. She must have been a Unity student. She must have thought, okay, well, I'm going to shock you. Because she said, sir, what happened? And he burst into tears because he was shocked. There was no judgment. There was no condemnation. And when he finally, but my understanding, he cried. And when he could finally collect himself, he said, yes, this is Joshua. Joshua is the most important thing in my life. I've had Joshua for 16 years. I've had him since he was a little puppy. He's my best friend, but I'm dying. And I'm being forced into a medical facility. And for the last month, I have begged and I have pleaded and I have offered to pay. I've done everything. But they won't let me take my best friend with me on my final days. And I knew if I came in here and told you the truth, you'd put him to sleep. But he's not ready to go. He said, I'm so sorry. And that shock, because of what the question that she asked, like the shock that I've had 40 times, it gave her the knowing. And she said, sir, the truth is, there's a sanctuary right down the hill, and they take in old dogs just like Joshua. That's all they take in. How about you and I make a call and see if they have room for one more? And we did. And I'll never forget. You know, when someone gives you something that's priceless, if you've had that experience, that was this experience. This man gave me Joshua, and he said, promise me you'll take care of my boy. And I said, don't you worry, I got him. And Joshua lived for more than a year before he fell asleep and went to go meet his daddy in the place beyond. That's the power that we have. And so I'd ask you, what can we do today? And tomorrow and the next, but let's focus on right now. Let's be present in the moment right now. What can we do today to shock our brothers and sisters? The ones we know and the ones we don't know. What can we do? What can we do to give them that experience, to leverage the power, to move away from the negative connotation that comes from the word shock? Now we know it's totally different. When we shock somebody, we can save their life. When we shock somebody, we can move them in a different direction. When we shock somebody, everything can be different. What can we do today to shock the world? God bless.